you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
SICK is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. SICK, 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 SICK.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
SICK is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
SICK is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. SICK, 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 SICK.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how are you, my friend?
Very well. What a game last night. That's a spectacular way to start the Stanley Cup Final.
Yes, I agree. I did not want it to end. I wouldn't have minded another overtime, Pierre. It was a great game. Horrible to see it end on a, it was a penalty. Nobody's arguing that, but you never want to see that lead to the end of the game in overtime. But nonetheless, a great game. I thought both teams had their moments of good hockey and so-so hockey and bad hockey. It was just going back and forth, and I'm hoping for another great game too, Pierre. But as you said earlier today, I said, what was the biggest story to you? And you said Evander Kane. And look at
hits.
Nine hits. He was a
barbaric
out there.
Yep. He was great.
He was.
Made a big difference. Made a huge difference. Stuart Skinner was phenomenal in the second period for Edmonton. I've never seen Florida not play tape to tape like they did in the third period. I was shocked. Shocked. There's just chip it out and try to survive. And that part of that goes to Edmonton and the way they forechecked. Part of that's the way Edmonton played in the neutral zone. But that was not good from Florida the last 30 minutes of that game.
Pierre, last year, obviously they went up 3-0 early in the series there. How much for the guys that were there last year, how much do you think that was in their minds as they approached this game one, knowing – I'm talking about the Oilers, not having that happen again and just starting off right on the right foot?
I think I said to you on the show yesterday. No, I definitely said on CBS, this is one of the most important game ones I've ever seen. Because if Edmonton lost that game yesterday, people would be talking already about a sweep. So now, you don't have to talk about that. If you're Edmonton, there's a real good chance, 85% of the teams that win game one win the Stanley Cup.
So we will see what happens there. I thought too, Pierre, the speed was a big element as well. I mean, obviously it usually is with Edmonton, but you mentioned how towards the end of the game, Florida's kind of just chipping in. I wonder if there was any fatigue involved. We know they've played a ton of hockey compared to everyone else. I wonder if that speed now is sort of taking over versus the fatigue that Florida might be feeling.
What was shocking to me was a face-off domination by Florida and how little offense they got out of it. And that usually when you have that kind of face-off prowess, you take the opposition speed out of the game. But that's why I said what I said about Florida. They were getting pucks, and rather than trying to go tape to tape and carry the puck, they were just chipping it out into the neutral zone, and it was turning right over to Edmonton. So was speed a factor? Yeah, Edmonton's a fast team. Everybody knows that. But I also think that Florida played into it. That wasn't a Florida team that I'm used to seeing. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. With you on that. Well, we're going to have a great guest coming on shortly here on the Eye Test. Hall of Famer Mark Recchi will be joining us. Of course, Mark played with Brad Marchand, who is now having a great playoff for the Florida Panthers. So we'll get his take on Marchand and the Stanley Cup Final as well. And also another former teammate of Rex was named the head coach finally of the Boston Bruins this morning. Marco Sturm, congratulations to him. Was named head coach of the Bruins after a lot of speculation that it would be him. And just Pierre, your initial thoughts on what he will bring to that team.
Good teacher, good communicator, a guy that knows exactly what it takes to win. Somebody that I think will be very honest with his team or his players, and somebody understands the Bruins' identity under Cam Neely and Don Sweeney. So I think that's an important part of it too. It's not an outsider, even though he's been involved with LA for a long period of time right now. It's somebody that really understands intrinsically how the Boston Bruins are run and what their organizational identity is. So I think that's good. I wish people would stop taking pot shots at Marco, by the way.
Yeah. He's like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
One of the best guys out there. I'm just telling you.
Great teammate.
Why are you mad? Because maybe some of the people that leak your stories, you're not happy that they didn't get the job?
Right. Yeah, I know.
So, just come on. It's a little civility. He's a really good coach.
Yep. And it's interesting. I see some Bruins fans saying, "Oh, this means they're going into a rebuild and they're going to suck." And I said, "Well, I don't know if they're going to suck, but what's wrong with them going to rebuild? Don't you think they should?"
Okay, so can we let's just say that this is for all the Bruins fans who I really respect, because they are Bruins fans are amazingly passionate. I love how passionate they are. So let's just do this. when the season starts next year, will the Bruins be better than Toronto?
No.
Will the Bruins be better than Tampa?
No.
Will they be better than Florida?
No.
Do you think they'll be better than Montreal?
I don't think so. Not this year. I
Okay.
think Montreal
But
passes.
right now, I've gone through 4 teams in the Atlantic, so that leaves 1 spot maybe for a wild card.
Mhm.
So I'll do this. Are they going to be better than the Washington Capitals?
No.
Are they going to be better than Carolina?
No.
Okay, so now we're running out of racetrack.
What about Ottawa?
Are they? I haven't gone there yet. Easy. There's a rhyme and reason to everything.
I got you.
Are they going to be better than, I don't know, let's just say the Columbus Blue Jackets?
No, I think Columbus will be better as well.
They might be better than them too.
Yep.
So now we'll go to Ottawa. Will they be better than Ottawa?
No.
So right now they're out of the playoffs.
Yes.
I haven't talked about Buffalo or Detroit or Philadelphia or Rangers or Islanders
Or the Devils. Yep.
or Devils.
Yep. I know. I just don't see, unless they go wild in free agency and trade market, Pierre, I don't see that happening. And that's why I think Sturm is the perfect guy for right
That's
now.
why I'm trying to. That's the level of where we are.
Yeah.
Marco's the perfect guy for this right now.
Exactly.
He's not going to break your young players. He's
Nope.
going to make your older players believe that this is going to work. He's a good communicator. He's a really good guy for this job at this time.
Yep. And I'll say this too, Pierre. Like, I've been critical of Don Sweeney in the past. And for a guy, I know he knows the bullseye's on him right now. I mean, he knows he had to nail it with this hire. He knows that he's got to give this team, whether it's into a rebuild or whether it's a retool or whether he thinks they can make the playoffs. So he needs to give them direction. There needs to be a plan, right? Or he's probably gone at the end of this 2-year contract extension that he signed, or maybe before that. But I like that he didn't immediately jump on to a proven veteran coach just to sort of save his own job and, maybe just make the playoffs again. You know what I mean? Just to kind of keep the heat off him. He said, no, I'm going to do what's right for the organization right now, not just for my status, but what's right for the organization. I give him a lot of credit for that.
So do I. I think he did the right thing for the organization. I don't know how many established coaches were left out there.
No, there weren't many.
We had a pretty big turnaround.
Yeah.
I did a list. Joel Quenneville was not coming to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Blashill, maybe. Mike Sullivan, not a chance.
No.
Rick Tocchet, no.
Nope.
Lane Lambert wasn't going to get an opportunity. Adam Foote, no. Dan Muse, even though he's from Canton, Mass, no.
No.
So all the new coaches that are in positions, they weren't coming.
Right.
Marco Sturm actually is a good fit, the perfect fit. I was thinking of college coaches that maybe could have done it. Pandolfo could have done it. He would have been good. They weren't giving the job to Joe Sacco. We know that. Joe's going to New York with Mike Sullivan.
Hey, congrats to him.
And David Quinn's going there too.
Yep.
That's going to be very interesting.
Yes. Oh, by the way,
you see what I'm saying though? Guys that were established head coaches, they were even in the mix.
have we heard anything? Speaking of established head coaches and one that's still out there, Pierre, haven't heard much on Peter Laviolette. All of this.
I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna,
Yeah.
I don't know if he wants to go back. He doesn't need to.
Right.
He's living a real good life in Florida, and I don't know. That didn't end well in New York.
No.
And it didn't end well in Washington.
No.
Those are fast. Like both of those, it did not end well in either place.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Oh, and some other hirings today, Pierre, I wanted to mention the Vancouver Canucks are filling out their staff. They've added former Bruins assistant Kevin Dean, Brett McLean, and our mutual friend, Scotty Young, to the coaching staff for Adam Foote there. So congratulations to them, and specifically to Scott Young, who had some good conversations with over in Belfast at the Friendship Four. It's good to see him there. So
Brett McLean's been coaching Iowa's farm team. He played in Arizona. Really, he was tight with Tocchet, and I'm sure he met Adam Foote through Tocchet. There's always a tie-in to all these jobs.
Right.
Scott Young's really a tie-in to being on the pro side and would have given a lot of intel and information to Adam Foote. and they would have been part of winning the Stanley Cup in Colorado together. So I think that's something. They were also teammates in Quebec. So there's a lot to all that stuff, and it's all good. Scotty's a good coach. He's a good guy. I know Scotty really well, and that's a good staff, actually. When you think about it, that's a really good staff. Kevin Dean's outstanding.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what happened in Chicago with him, but Kevin Dean's really good.
Yeah, I always like talking to a lot of the young guys coming up the ranks. They spoke highly of him, Pierre. He worked well with him.
He's a really good coach.
Yeah.
Does a great job with defensemen. Tried to recruit Kevin Dean out of the Culver Military Academy.
Oh,
It did. He ended up going to University of New Hampshire.
okay.
Yeah.
And then also Pierre, and I don't think there was definitely great candidates out there, but I think it's a very good person to give it to. The Masterton Award goes to Sean Monahan for everything he did.
Good. That's such a good. I saw that today, and obviously with the Goudreau relationship and everything else, it's so appropriate. It's really appropriate. Yeah.
He really, I mean, when you think about it, remember when I talked to Donnie Waddell. Remember we had him and how much he was raving about him, even when he wasn't playing, he was hurt, how he was still a part of the team, still a leader in the room. What a great addition to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
So on the off nights when I did a lot of games in Ottawa when I was working for TSN, and then eventually NBC, I'd go on the off nights and go watch the 67s. And Monahan was a superstar player. He was so good. He was such a good. Now he's been a very good NHL player, but I'd go hide out of the baseball cap. I sit in the back, watch, and I was like, "Wow, this guy's really good. He's really good."
Good stuff. All right, we're looking ahead to game 2 before we get Rex on here. Pierre, if you're the Florida Panthers, what's one major thing you're looking at to fix?
Get offense out of your faceoff wins. You can't win almost 55% of the faceoffs and get no goals out of faceoffs. Or established zone time.
Mm-hmm.
They made terrible decisions with the puck. Now, part of that's because Edmonton did a good job taking the lanes away. But you got to make stuff happen out of offensive zone faceoff wins, which they dominated. And the other thing is stop being passive resistant. Like, when did Florida become like that? Go get them. And they got to find a way to neutralize Evander Kane. You can't. He ran around and he out Florida. He did.
I love when you said that.
They got to establish a presence on him. One of those guys is going to have to straighten him up because he's getting confident right now. He's a good player. He's Evander when he plays like that. It's really good.
Yeah, he's very effective. All right. Well, another player that was very effective in the Stanley Cup playoffs, winning 3 Stanley Cups. Mark Recchi joined us. That's as a player, by the way. Mark Recchi joined us here in the eye test. What's up, Rex?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, and you?
Doing
Did you
great.
Just get off the golf course?
No, poolside, buddy. Poolside. Enjoying the nice weather we're finally getting. So
that's good.
Yeah, exactly. Rex, let's get right into it. 2 former teammates in the news a lot right now. We'll start with Brad Marchand of the Florida Panthers. I take it you're not that surprised to see him doing what he's doing in the Stanley Cup playoffs based on what you know of him and what he's capable of, huh?
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's such a competitor and he's going to play in the big games and he's going to be there in the playoffs when you need him. And he has been. I mean, he's a culture guy. He understands culture and he's just a tremendous fit for Florida. I mean, he just, it's seamless. He goes in, he just, he goes in there and bees himself. And that's, he fit right into a locker room. There's nothing better than having guys have a little character in your locker room like that. And they got a lot of it and that's why they're successful. And, it's so fun to watch them. And I unfortunately didn't get a chance to watch last night. I had a graduation party for daughters, but they sound like it was a decent game. So, but just Marshy just is a tremendous player and just a tremendous leader, tremendous guy, and a great teammate.
You know how much pressure there is on Edmonton to bring the cup back to Canada.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot of stuff in Vancouver. I remember sitting with you before Game 7, and you tell me we're going to win today. And you were right. How much pressure is on Edmonton in your mind? How do the players deal with that?
Well, there's a ton of pressure, but they got all of Canada on their backs right now, and it's back-to-back years, and they just about came back last year and got it done. Now they're back in the same spot. They got a big win last night. But they're McDavid and Draisaitl and that group of guys. They're so good. I mean, and I think I don't really think the pressure really bothers McDavid and Draisaitl. To be honest, it doesn't look like it to me. So I think they've learned to push through it, and whether they win or not. But I think Florida might just end up being a better team. You don't know that. I mean, I think they're both very evenly balanced. I think it's going to be a heck of a series again. But I don't think that bothers them. I think they come to play the game every night the same way, and they're difference makers, and that's huge.
Rex, I referenced you yesterday. We had Ed Jovanowski. We were just talking about the whole, theme of you got to lose to finally win, and you got to feel that pain first to finally feel that joy of winning the cup. I think back to, the team that won it for the Bruins in 2011, what happened the year before against Philly. Talk to us about that off season and then coming into that season, how much that carried over as a motivating factor, because you've seen it happen in person.
Yeah, no, it is a huge motivating factor. And, I think, ownership and management group in Boston at the time realized that we were right there. We were right there to be in a Stanley Cup team. Let's make a couple of tweaks, add a couple pieces. They realized that you can never have enough good centermen. And so they added those pieces during the course of the season in the summer, and it just, injuries hurt us the year before. And then, I know I'm making an excuse, but we had, we lost two of our top guys, and it's pretty hard to lose guys like that. But I just they stuck with it, and then we had a great preseason. We had a great training camp. We went up to we were up in Vermont, and we had a great 3 or 4 days, and we kind of talked about it, and we got through it, and then we said, okay, this is it. We're going to learn from it. Now we're going to grow as a group here. It's pushed back. It's pushed aside. It's over. Now let's focus on what we got to do for the next 100 and something games to win a championship.
It's so valuable to have people like Mark around that know how to do that.
Yep.
That's why, I look at the addition of Seth Jones, a guy that's never won. Mark, I'm just curious. Like, I know he's never won, but he was he won World Junior Gold over in Russia. He knows what it takes to win. How much do you think he's going to influence or potentially influence the series because he has never won?
Yeah, the excitement, and the excitement in the dressing room for the guys, that obviously Florida still has a lot of guys that have won there, but they're excited to try and win for a guy like this. I'm sure he's a great teammate. I really don't know him well, but I'm sure he's a tremendous teammate, a great guy. And you want to win for those guys. Like, you want to be part of it, not only for yourself, but you want to win for those guys that haven't had an opportunity to win. And, I had that opportunity in Carolina, and, very fortunate after 15 years winning in Pittsburgh and going in and watching a great friend of mine, Rod Brindamore, raise the cup. Couldn't be more deserving guy than that. And all the other guys that I became really close with as well. Yeah. And they all wanted to win a championship. And, I know Stillman and I talked about it a lot. Like, it'd be amazing to see this group, to win a championship and we'd love it. And then, they kind of laughed. They said, no, oh, you've done this before. No, it's exciting, man. Like, there's nothing better. So it doesn't matter how many times you win it. Brian Trottier says it all the time. Everyone got better, and it's really true.
It's true. I agree.
Hey, another one of your teammates that was on that 2010 team that lost to Philly and then ended up getting traded the next season, Marco Sturm, was named the head coach of the Boston Bruins today. Just your take on that and what he'll bring to the Bruins, Rex.
Yeah, well, I only know Marco as a teammate and a player, and he was the best. He's an amazing teammate, amazing, incredible person. Like, just his family's amazing. I'm very excited that he got the opportunity. I don't know him as a coach. I haven't really heard anything about him, but it seems like he's done a great job with LA's farm team. And obviously, playing with him, I can see how he'll be a great communicator. He'll work with their guys. They'll know what's going on. There won't be any, the details that won't go untouched. And he's going to, hopefully bring a little bit of, excitement back in that locker room. And I know Joe Sacco's a terrific guy too. And I feel terrible for a guy like that, but Marco Sturm is, he's a wonderful person, and I think this is a great fit for the Bruins, and I hope it's a great fit for the Bruins because, obviously, you want your teams you play for to do well and to be successful, and I really hope this is a good fit for him and both of them, and they turn this thing around.
It'd be a good fit, Jimmy, for Marco to pick up the phone and call Mark Recchi and say, "I need you to come in and work with my young forwards."
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a good fit.
I wouldn't mind that.
You never know.
The phone's right here.
There's no phone call yet. So
nobody watches more hockey than Mark, and nobody understands it better than Mark, and he'd be a good fit anywhere. How's ownership going with Kamloops?
Yeah, it's going good. We've had a couple tough years. Obviously, we had the Memorial Cup in Kamloops 3 years ago, and you sell in, you go all in, and so the last couple of years has been. We just missed making the playoffs last year. Hopefully, this year we take that next step again. Our younger guys take another step, and we got to get our goaltending. We got to see how that plays out. We got to figure out that, but it's fun. I mean, we love it, and love being part of ownership, and we let them do their thing. We have a general manager and coach, and we let them do their thing, and obviously, you have to hold them accountable as ownership group, but they've been doing a great job, and hopefully they continue.
Do you, Mark, are you concerned at all about the college stuff and major junior and players defecting? We just had one today, a first-round pick of Columbus, Caden Lindstrom, is leaving Medicine Hat, and he's going to play for Michigan State. So, I mean, it's starting that big name guys. Like Gavin McKenna's a big, as you know, he's a big name guy.
Well, it just happened. Yeah, Victoria just lost a couple of their young studs too to Michigan, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's concerning because obviously they can get NIL money, and we can't. We don't pay them anything. We can't compete with paying kids $50,000-$100,000. We just that's not we're not allowed to, and we don't do that. So it just wouldn't make a lot of sense. So we're going to have to do everything we can to make sure that this is the right understand that the WHL in our case is the best place to play for you and your development, and we have to make sure that is for them. So and that's we're bringing in a couple new younger coaches to go along with our coaches right now, just to try and get it. We're gonna have to do the recruiting process. So it's it's going to be more work. I think it's a great thing, but there's going to players that are going to leave, and they're going to go. But the way I see it is, if you want to play a pro game, and you want to get started in a pro game, that's where you start. The WHL, CHL plays a pro style game. We play 68 games. More of that in college is 35 games, maybe 40 at the most. And there's pros and cons to both, but it's just a matter of seeing what goes on, in the next couple of years. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. I think the junior leagues below are going to get hurt quite a bit. The USHL and BC Junior League and those leagues, they're going to get hurt a little bit more because kids are just going to go play. They'll play CHL now and then wait maybe for an opportunity if college comes calling, or if they just want to stay in juniors, which is, we hope that we can have guys that just want to come there and commit to Kamloops and play there their full time until they turn pro.
One other thing, Jimmy, because Mark had a son that played college hockey. You know how hard it is for 18 and 19-year-old kids to play. I think my biggest concern is the 16 and 17-year-old kids are being told, "Oh yeah, go to college," and then you don't play.
Yeah.
Like those kids should go play major junior, and they should stay there till they're 19, and then they can leave.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, if maybe you get to 19, and then if you feel that there's another development spot, and maybe you go college for a couple more years, whatever. If you don't feel you're ready to turn pro, because a lot of the good players are ready to turn pro at 19, 20 or 20 years old, especially. And, so it's going to be it really is going to be interesting. It's like, the development, CHL is a development league, like 16 and 17-year-olds you play. You know, like you play and you get developed, and like Pierre said, college hockey, that doesn't necessarily happen. So, you know, those young guys, they don't, unless you're an elite, you're not going to play. You might be in and out of the lineup, you know, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens with these guys that have made that step. And, you know, I think there are 17, two young guys out of Victoria.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I know that the Lidstrom, what's he going to be, 19 next year? You know, so it'll be interesting. And, you know, I'm surprised because he hasn't played much hockey. So I'm surprised that, you know, he didn't continue down this path and playing 68 games and playing more of a pro game. But so it'll be interesting to see how, you know, everything turns out.
Jimmy, he's one of my favorite players, Mark. And, you know, people know that. I tell everybody I see. And he played World Junior for Canada. He was an amazing player in Kamloops. He still went to Muskegon in the IHL. Like, I don't think people understand this. How hard, Mark, do people understand how hard it is?
I don't think so. And, you know, honestly, like, if, you know, Muskegon was the best thing that ever happened to me. I went down there and had a great year of pro. We won a championship down there. And I learned from, you know, so they had some great veterans down there, and I learned a ton from them. And, you know, and when you go far and you win a championship, and then, you know, you feel you're ready, you know, you got the pro game and you understand it now. And it was hard. I mean, you know, like, I was very lucky to go down there and be with a bunch of great group of players and leaders and older guys, not older. They were probably 26, 27. They were much
Calendar and Dave
Mikhailuk, Scotty Gruel, Mitch Wilson. I mean, it just, the list kind of went down of great guys we had there. And you know, it was awesome. So I had a great experience, and it was the best thing for me. And, you know, sometimes that path is, you know, for most kids is the right path. And to play a little bit in the minors, God, could be half a year, you know, whatever. Like, I think it's good unless you're elite. You know, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of taste of playing in the minors. It's good for you. And, you know, I mean, that's just, you know, the NHL is a hard league. I mean, you know, it's not easy.
No. Before we let you go, Rex, I wonder, because of Kamloops and being involved with the WHL, have you had a chance to see McKenna in person play? I
have not seen McKenna in person. I watched the game the other night. I watched some of the Memorial Cup. Yeah, I mean, for what he's doing at his age is pretty special. I mean, this kid's going to be, I mean, obviously he's going to be, you know, I think the future, you know, you're looking at maybe a guy like Connor, like, you know, like just elite skill like that, elite skating, elite hockey mind. And, you know, you just hope, you know, he just continues to progress. And you know, he seems like an amazing kid from everything you hear about him. He's a great kid. He's got a great family. So I'm excited to see what we can continue to do. I hope he stays in Medicine Hat, because it'd be great for him to continue to play the pro game, a little bit of pro game. And I mean, he'll be in the NHL in 2 years. So, you know, to go play a little bit, you know, 68 games and maybe take another run at it and see what can happen.
How many games does Medicine Hat play in Kamloops next year?
They play one. We play them 1-1. So, yeah.
Try to get an extra one.
Yeah,
It
would. Yeah, no kidding. That would be nice. It would be nice, but yeah, I might have to go fly in for that one. So
get an extra game. Say, hey, look, we need one more.
Yeah, no question.
This is a true story. They did that in the Quebec League when Crosby was playing.
Oh, really?
I'm telling you right now, in Quebec City, they added a game because they were playing in the Coliseum. They had another game.
Why not?
Why not? You're an amazing friend. Thanks for doing
this. Thanks, Rex.
Awesome, guys. You guys are great friends as well. Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
All right. Great to see you. Mark Recchi joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. And never gets old talking hockey.
No, but you see what he said, that I asked him that about how hard it is, because I'm hearing foolishness out there.
Oh, yeah.
And this is for the parents. It's not for the young kids. Get every young kid. I was one of them too. Y'all think you're better than you are. But it's for the parents. Like, you got to be smart about this now. There's a lot of nonsense going on, and you better have trustworthy people advising you, and you better not be in a rush. The smartest thing to do is don't be in a rush. Patience is a virtue in this thing right now. And you heard what he said. You heard exactly what Mark said. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, exactly. And it just goes to say too, for people looking at this draft, we can slot this kid in here next year in the NHL lineup. It takes time. All of it, whether you're trying to get to a junior team, you're trying to get to a pro team, call it takes time. You need patience, unless you're Gavin McKenna, then you're at a whole nother level.
Look at Celebrini. There's not a lot of them, okay?
Yeah.
Jack Eichel, Paul Correa, Neuendijk was, at Cornell. He was so good. It was ridiculous. But there are not a lot of these guys. You don't hear me rattling off like 50 million guys.
Exactly.
They're not that many.
Yep. Exactly. All right, let's get to our sponsors, and then we will do our Q&A. Let's talk about TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And of course, our wonderful sponsors over at Betway, where you can still go all the way with Betway. And if you're a new member, even if you lose your first bet, you can still get up to $200 credit. So go to the QR code right there in front of you, or to the details section on the website, and sign up for your account to redeem that welcome offer. The offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply, and always bet responsibly. No sick pick tonight, no game, but I will have some for you tomorrow. Didn't do too well. I had Edmonton winning, but I had them winning by more than one, and that went to overtime. So I'll get some good ones for you tomorrow, but let's get to the Q&A right now. All right, Sam, I saw you bring this up, Sam. Did you hear about this, Pierre?
No, I've been busy. I haven't been hearing anything.
So Sam's asking, did you guys hear about 32 Thoughts podcast? Elliot Freeman brought up your interview with Craig Leopold. Of course, when Craig told us that they might start to need looking at a succession plan for Gary Bettman. And I guess Gary Bettman was asked about that and his availability yesterday, Pierre, and did not take too kindly to it. Actually reprimanded the writer who asked him and said, I know that's what you want, but that's not what's happening. And he sounded very determined to stay on much longer than it originally sounded like. And so Elliot referenced us. He said, I think that was a direct result of Jimmy Murphy and Pierre McGuire having that great interview with Craig Leopold. So,
well, thank you. Very nice of Elliot to do that. We didn't tell Mr. Leopold what to say, and I only know Mr. Leopold as a man of honor.
Yep.
So, and I've known him a long time, very long time. And I've told him some things he didn't want to hear.
Yep.
He asked me, he said, I need you to be truthful with me. And I've been very truthful with him over time. And we've had this tremendous relationship, and I will always respect that man because he's always been amazing to me whenever I've asked him for something. So I don't know what Commissioner Bettman said or didn't say, but I know one thing. I have a good relationship with both men, and I'm going to take Craig Leopold at his word.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Bill Van Bagel, I heard Pete DeBoer was called out by his players in the exit interviews. Do you expect any action by the Stars towards DeBoer? I'll just say when I saw that too and that news coming out, Bill, I thought the same thing as you, but it hasn't happened yet. And I'm going to now kind of dish this over to you, Pierre, and say, I know we saw a similar situation where it looked like Bruce Cassidy was safe with the Bruins in 2022. And then 3 weeks later, when there was more exit interviews done, that changed. When do you kind of know when you're out of the woods in a situation like this?
If you're the coach,
yeah.
When you sit down with the owner and the general manager,
mm-hmm.
and you say, here's where I look at it. This is how I see it. How do you guys see it? And they may say, if you can't change this or you can't change that, or you don't meet this person or you don't meet, then it's not going to work. And if you say, well, I can't do that stuff, you're over, you're done.
Yeah.
But more times than not, there has to be, if they're really sincere about keeping them, they've either met already or they're going to meet.
Right.
And they're going to say, here's something we need to get better. It's just like when you meet with the players at the end of the year, I can tell you right now, you say, I like your skating. I like your tenacity. I hate your decision-making. So what I'd like you to do this summer is watch some tape. I've made a 7 to 10 minute presentation for you. Watch some tape, study it, and figure out what you can do better. Or I love your hockey sense. Love how tough you are. You don't skate well enough. So here's what I like you to do this summer. So every year at the end of the year, you just can't throw plaudits out there for the guys.
Right.
I would imagine that Pete at some point either has or will sit down with ownership and will sit down with Jim Nill.
Okay.
They'll say, we like this, we like this, we like this, and maybe we don't like that. Or we don't like this, we don't like this, we don't like this, but we're keeping you because we want you to work on those three things.
And, you know, I had Pierre, I forgot to tell you actually, and I don't mind saying here, I'm not going to say the name, but I did have an NHL pro scout who listens to us. Love the idea you suggested of Pete taking out Jay Gottinger and just having a one-on-one, just away from the rink, just a nice meal like that. So hopefully maybe he did something like that, because if he hasn't had
meetings, those meetings matter a
Yeah.
lot.
Players notice that stuff.
They do. And, you know, there's some guys that appreciate it and some guys, they forget about it. But in the moment, they matter. They matter a lot. And you got to do them. You got to do them.
Agree. All right, next question. Steve Lash, are you a bit concerned for Sturm that the expectations for management and ownership will see it as a failed season if they don't make the playoffs or go deep, like was said at the final presser? Steve, I think that mentality's been reeled in a bit. I really do. That's what I think this Sturm hiring symbolizes, that maybe they've reevaluated. They've looked at the other teams like Pierre and I just did in the Eastern Conference. And I think maybe there's more of an appetite, or at least an understanding, that there's a good chance this won't be a playoff year, but as long as the guys develop with Sturm, they'll be happy.
Fair. Well said.
All right. Next question. Juice _031 017. How come the Oilers don't get enough credit for how good of a defensive team they become in the playoffs? They held Florida to 2 shots in the third period. That was pretty amazing, Juice.
Watch CBS HQ. I gave the Oilers a lot of love.
Yep.
I'm really surprised, though. I got to tell you straight up at what Florida was doing strategically. The flipper pass into the neutral zone and try to create foot races, not going to work against Edmonton. They're going to have to adjust. I don't think you'll see that again in game 2, but that's not Edmonton's fault. I thought Edmonton played really well. Yeah. Edmonton played really well. And I said it to Jimmy before the series started, and I'll say it again if you missed it. If Edmonton gets on the power play 4 times or more, and they had 4 power plays yesterday, they're going to win the games. They're going to win the games. Florida can't score their way out of taking bad penalties. And look, Thomas Nosek didn't mean to do that, but that was the 4th penalty of the game for the Florida Panthers. That was a deciding goal.
Yep, exactly. So there you go. Next question. Kevin McClaffrey, what's up, Kev? Preface this with, I really want Schaefer, but how hard would it be for a first-time GM to come in with the first overall pick and trade out of it? Seems much more likely for Darsh to stick with the pick.
No, so
that's a good question, Kevin.
It's a great question.
Yep.
What should have been presented by ownership for all the candidates, because I've been through this too, is, okay, we're picking at 1. How are you approaching the draft? And what you should be hearing is, well, here's a 5-point plan. I want to think about doing this. This is where I think we're deficient with our organization. I think Schaefer's the very best player, so we're taking him no matter what. I can get 4 assets and money for that pick. That will help me in free agency, or will help me with other things. Mm-hmm. So there should be 5 different, or 6 or 7, whatever. How many do you think? But I personally think 5's enough. There should be, if you're taking that job or you're interviewing for that job, you should have those created.
Yep.
I don't know if Darsh did that or not. I have no idea. I have to think he did. He got the job. And if they didn't ask him that, that's on them.
Right.
That's on the owners. That's not on him. But that's what should be. And I would say if you're intimidated as a GM first time or millionth time to make a deal, then you shouldn't have the job. You shouldn't have the job. If you're running your team based on what the media is saying and social media is telling you what to do, then you shouldn't have the job.
Exactly. All right, next question. Randy Workman, how do you like the way the NHL is handling the awards? Personally, I love it. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, Pierre, what they've been doing. They've been coming out with these little YouTube videos. I like it. It's something different, you know.
No, it's good. It's for the modern era. I no problem with it at all.
It is what it is.
No problem with it at all.
All right, next question. Michael Palchik, question: listening to Toronto media talk about letting Mitch Marner and John Tavares walk and changing to the winning culture, I don't see how they can replace them with their current assets and or free agency. I wouldn't let Tavares go. I'll tell you that.
Here's the problem. I just did Jeff Merrick's show.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do you think John Tavares' agent's going to use when he sees Brock Nelson 3 years, $7.75 million? So he's going to walk right into Brad Treliving and say, "Hey,
there you go.
Who's got better numbers?
Yeah.
Who's played in more playoff games? Who's
Yep.
been the captain of an NHL team, both on the island and in Toronto?"
Mm-hmm. Who plays in a tougher market and still succeeds?
So that contract, Jeff and I were kind of pontificating on that. That's a tough comparable for Toronto. Now, I also said to Jeff, if there's one player that I think would take less in market value to stay where he is, it's John.
That's where I was going to go because you have.
But think about it for 1 second. Jeff made that's a really good point by Jeff on that. In terms of Marner, I don't know I'm not in a rush to see Mitchell Marner go, by the way, but if you have to pay way too much, I wouldn't keep him. You got to think long term. It hadn't worked.
You got to think. I mean, there's maybe ways to take whatever you were paying him and then address 3 other needs.
So what I'd throw at him in negotiation, and I wouldn't. So this is one of those where he's probably going to want his representative there. So this is one of those where I'd say, to the agent, I say, can I take Mitchell out to dinner, or can I go away for a couple of days with Mitch? I want to talk to him like a golf thing, just the 2 of us. And I showed different scenarios, like Stamkos, who had a chance to be a Toronto Maple Leaf, chose to stay in Tampa, won 2 cups, cemented his place in history, continues to play and evolve, and is making a whack of money. They're different guys you can illustrate that about. I just use that because it's a Toronto tie-in, and Marner would appreciate that. That's what I would try to do. I don't know if Brad's going to do that or not, but before you just say, "Oh no, he's out," I'd say, no. We need to have a talk.
Yeah. I mean, you win a cup there, you will be a god.
Well, no. So
for the rest of the time,
all those guys from the 67 team in Toronto, and some are obviously passed on.
Yep.
All of them lived amazingly well if they stayed in the Toronto area, and they did, and they deserved it. They did fantastically well in life, most of those guys. Yeah.
All right. Next question. Big Bill, Pierre. Gustav Lindstrom just signed a 5-year deal with the ESHL. Does this impact his status with the Habs? Can they still sign him being an RFA?
So I saw that today, Bill. He's going back to Sweden. You don't do that unless you're going back. And I would imagine that there's probably stuff in that contract that says, no, you're not getting out. So I would say no.
It's 5 years like that, too.
When a Swede goes back to Sweden on a 5-year deal, you're not coming back.
All right, next question. Mike Gaudette, how much would an NCAA hockey player make max in a year?
As much as the school wants to pay them.
Yeah.
Their football guys making $1 and $2 million. See, so part of the problem is the Big Ten schools that have the big TV contracts and the ACC schools. Boston College is one of those ACCs. They're in the ACC. They get paid a lot. I think it's $80-85 million a year for TV money. So if you have 5 players, let's say you pay 5 players $500,000 a year, $2.5 million, that's zero for those guys. Zero. So I think at some point that's going to happen. Like Dakota gets 12,000 people a game.
I know.
It's a vault. It's a cash machine.
Yeah.
But Denver's getting like 8,000 people a game. It's a vault.
Yeah.
So it's just. People need to understand, like, it's a different business. It's a way different business.
And like we already talked, Pierre, where it could, and I've had talks with some of their coaches, just a lot of those independent schools that have been doing really well, making the NCAA, some even winning it, like a Quinnipiac. I don't think Quinnipiac's going to be as bad a situation, but there's some of those independent schools that have been on the rise that now might take a step backwards because of this, because they won't be able to compete with that money.
If you're not an elite school in the ECAC like Quinnipiac is, or if you're not in Hockey East, or you're not in the Big Ten, you could be in trouble.
Right.
And that's not a knock at the CCHA. No. That's not a hot knock at the Atlantic. It's not a knock at any of those places.
Financial fact.
I'm just telling you the business, and they know.
Yeah.
They know the business model. They know.
All right. Next question. Sean Myers, any indication of what the Islanders are doing yet? Not really. I mean, you see speculation, right?
They must have a hell of a restaurant bill in Buffalo because somebody keeps leaking all the guys they keep taking out for dinner. Look I can tell you right now, in Buffalo, there's a Buffalo Chop House you go to Chef's, and if you want wings, you go to Gabriel's Gate. And maybe there are a couple places in Williamsville, and maybe there are a couple places in Amherst that you go to just outside.
Right.
But like, we're not talking about, you're not in Manhattan, and you're not in LA, and you're not in Chicago. And I'm a big Buffalo fan. I spent a lot of time in my life in Buffalo, and I love all those restaurants, and I go to them all. But these guys are like, I've never seen more. We're taking this guy out for dinner. Why are you doing that?
No.
Don't tell anybody.
I don't understand it, Pierre. Especially in something like this, I would think you kind of tipping your hat a bit. I don't know. All right, next question. Why does Edmonton always end up with McDavid and Draisaitl on the same line in the third period and not at the start of the game? Could you explain some of the strategies?
Matchups are trying to wear guys out. So they're trying to make sure that, Barkov's got a matchup, Bennett's got a matchup, Lundell's got a matchup, and then all of a sudden they say, oh boy, they loaded up on one line. One of the reasons why they're able to do that yesterday is Evander Kane went to another level. He went to a whole other level yesterday. Yeah. And he got some time with Connor too, and the Nuge when they took Corey Perry out the line. But, the strategy is you try to break the guys defending down. We used to do that with Mario all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes Sky would go Lemieux, Francis, Lemieux on a line with Trottier and Yager. Lemieux would be on the wing. So I'm just showing you examples. Yeah. You're trying to break matchups down. Or you'd go, like in a regular season game, if Scotty wanted to just torment the other coach, he could go Stevens, Lemieux, Recchi, and then he'd go Francis, Yager, Airy, and then he'd go right back Lemieux, Stevens, and Recchi, and there's poor Brian Trottier and Troy Loney and Phil Borg. Like, when do we get our chance? In a regular season game, that breaks some matchups down pretty quick.
Yep. It's nice to have those luxuries. All right, next question.
Makes you a better coach, Jimmy.
You're still a good coach. What did you make of Edmonton's physical play?
A lot. We just talked about. Yeah, I thought it was great. And I thought Evander Kane out Florida Panthered any Florida Panther last night. I did.
Totally. You know what? Good on him to kind of be like, I need to be more like them. Like, I can be like them. They play my game.
Yeah, the only thing, and I know a lot of fans liked it. Look, at Nosek made a mistake. It's a bad luck play. If anybody that's played hockey knows that could happen to anybody, especially at that time of the game with the way the ice was. And I felt terrible. Like, I like Jake Wallman as a player. I don't know what that was about.
I was going to ask you about that, Pierre, and thanks for reminding me. Yeah, what was your take?
He won a championship at Providence playing for Nate Lehman, who's a pretty strict guy. And, at some point, Jake's got to say, okay, I started in St. Louis. I started mostly in the American League, some East Coast League. I moved around. I've been in all these different cities. I finally got a good spot. I started the year in San Jose. Now I'm in Edmonton.
Be humble.
You're a good player. He's a good player, man.
He's a great player.
He's a really good player. He didn't need to do that.
No. And I'll tell you,
why do people think that that's cool?
I didn't like it, and I think it's dangerous, especially with a team like Florida. They're going to store that away in their head.
Yeah. I'm just asking why people think that that's a good, I didn't think that. Is that the new, I'm going to get you on the internet or something? I didn't like it. That's all, I guess, is what I'm saying.
It's,
that kid doesn't need to do that. He's a really good player.
Right. Yep. Do your talking with your stick. All right. Next question. FFFF. Have you guys heard of the rumor that Jason Robinson in Dallas might be traded? If so, would he be a good fit in Montreal? Yeah. I mean, FFF, his name is out there. I mean, it's just nonstop what I'm hearing, but I don't know how much of it's
his name's out there. So's his brother. They're both out there.
Wouldn't that be crazy if they would
both brothers' names are out there. So I don't know. I keep hearing Carolina. Not going to lie to you. They've already made a deal, Carolina and Dallas. So they know how to call each other. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
All right. We'll see. Next question. Joe Segredo. Hey, guys, any chance that Costa makes the Wings this season? I think this
I don't know why he wouldn't be seriously considered. He is, I watched him play junior. I watched him play in the American League. I got to think at some point they're going to say, okay, we're bringing him up, but he's not. I don't think he'll be the starter. No, if you're asking me that, I don't think he'll be the starter. But
yeah.
I think eventually they're hoping that it's Koss and Trey Augustine. That's what I think eventually they want in Detroit, but I don't know that. Jimmy, I still got to say, I'm still surprised that Augustine went back to Michigan.
And I was just going to say
Michigan State.
I don't think you're the only one. I think that caught the Red Wings off guard, Pierre. I really do.
Well, like he and Fowler, I can just tell you confidently we're the two best goalies in college.
Right. And they were sort of on that same trajectory.
Yep.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, I know you two know the NCAA players. If the Habs keep their 2 first-rounders, what can you tell me about Cullen Porter and Logan Hensler? On one a right D-man, the other a center, decent targets. I like Hensler a lot. I got to interview him. He's good.
Yeah, no, they're both good, good players, guys that fit. I love this time of the year because you got the NHL, you got the playoffs, and you got the draft, and people are talking about free agency. I want to talk, hot stove it. I get it. Please measure expectation on this draft. It's not what people are telling you.
Yeah.
It's not. Next year we'll have a different conversation. This year's just a cyclical thing.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, do either of you know about the Habs D prospect Bogdan Kanishkov? Did I pronounce it right?
I don't know how to pronounce
it.
Okay.
I had scattered reports from the KHL, but if he comes over, what can the Habs expect? I don't know anything about him, Bill.
Couldn't tell you anything about it.
Sorry about that. Next question. Bill Van Vagel again. Do the Panthers need to open up their game a bit offensively or just stay the course?
Better tape-to-tape passes, better decisions with the puck. And I'll tell you what, Bill, I mean it. When you dominate face-off play like they did the last night, you got to get offensive opportunities. They had 1 or 2 set plays off of face-offs, but outside of that, they never got pucks to the net. They didn't dominate nearly enough for all the face-offs they won.
All right, next question. Steve Lash, Sergei Gonchar won't be returning to the Canucks next season. Should Hughes and Gorton make the call and hire him as a development coach that can house Demidov like he did with Malkin in Pittsburgh?
So, by the way, the staff that they're building in Vancouver with Adam Foote is good. Brett McLean, who's a very good young coach, just left Minnesota's farm team to go up there. Scotty Young's going up there. Scotty Young's a real good coach, real good hockey man. Their staff is good. They got a good staff there. I would. If I were the Canadians, I would definitely, knowing what he did with Malkin and, in Pittsburgh when Malkin came over, but that's up to them. They know the team way better than I do, Montreal. They do internally.
All right, we'll see. Next question. Choose _031017. When now 16-year-old London DuPont is draft eligible in 2027, will he be viewed as a better draft prospect than Matthew Schaefer?
A lot of people have asked me that. Hard to say because 16-year-old physically, how much bigger guy but lean. So how big's he going to get? It's a great question. It's one of those where you don't know for sure, but obviously I can just tell you Schaefer's going to be an impact player. Yeah. Unless he gets hurt again, he's going to be a major league player.
All right, next question. Steve Lash, have you seen it before where the former head coach returns to the team years later as an assistant? I'm referring to David Quinn today, hired with the Rangers.
I have not.
It's not often, I think. It's probably happened.
Often? How? Where has it happened? Like just in your memory?
Not my memory, so maybe it hasn't. I just don't want to say factually that it's never happened because I don't know that.
No, but
I'm trying to think.
So, like Torch was an assistant with the New York Rangers a long time ago, and then he went back and was a head coach. But I can't. Like I know that Michel Therrien left the Canadiens, and then he eventually went back to the Canadiens.
Yep.
But, I don't know a lot. Because you know who was an assistant coach for the Rangers and now their head coach is Mike Sullivan. When Torch was a head coach, Sullivan was his assistant. So it's like they flip flop.
All interconnected, yeah.
I don't know. I found that very different.
Yeah, that was.
I'm happy for David. I like to be totally transparent. David Quinn's a good friend of mine. I respect him a lot. I worked with him for a long time in the summers back when he was a player that was trying to get his career going. He had a thing called Christmas disease. It was not good. It ended his career. He still got an amazing life, but I think it's a strange way to do business.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Juice _031017. Should the Oilers bring in someone like Derek Ryan to help with faceoffs? Florida really had the upper hand on the faceoff top.
Yeah, we talked about that before, and I talked to Mitch Melnick yesterday about Derek Ryan, who's such a good penalty killer and a faceoff guy. I think they want to keep Matthias Janmark in there because he's bigger and more robust. I think they're trying to match the physicality of Florida. But if there were an injury, I would imagine Derek Ryan would be in there sooner rather than later. He's had an amazing career for a guy that was mostly Canadian college hockey player. He's had an unbelievable career. He really has.
He's a valuable player. Next question. Juice _031017. Pierre, did the Edmonton Oilers this year remind you of the 2009 Pittsburgh Penguins?
So I know one thing. I said this on CBS yesterday. In 2008, I did all the games, and I knew the Penguins weren't going to win. I could have told you that. You could just tell the moment was too big, and Detroit had been there, and they were ready. In 2009, you kind of knew Pittsburgh had a fighting chance. Yeah. And when I knew they had a big chance to win is after they got wiped out in Game 5 in Detroit. I walked out of Joe Louis with Mario, and Mario's like, we got him right where we want him. We're going to win this thing. Yep. And he went back and wrote a message on the board. And they won Game 6, and then they won Game 7, and that's obviously the big Fleury moment and Max Talbot, huge Max Talbot moment in those couple of them for Max. But they're very similar to that Pittsburgh team. I think that's a really good point.
Here, we touched on it with Florida, how Florida sort of came back last year from their previous year, sort of like that as well. And I'm wondering if you noticed in any of the post game with like McDavid, how serious he was compared to last year. Do you see like players get more stone-faced, so to speak, in the moment?
So this is what I keep telling you all the time. Everybody wants to be in the Stanley Cup final. Everybody says, I can handle it, no problem. I'm telling you, from having broadcast 16 of them and been involved pretty significantly in 2 more, that's a lot. You think until you're in it, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's why I'll always tell people this. I was so happy Mark Recchi brought up his name, Brian Trottier. Our guys really wanted to be in the Cup. They worshipped. Mm-hmm. They didn't know anything about it. Brian Trottier taught them all about it.
Yeah.
Brian did.
It's invaluable to have that.
Oh, my gosh. Brian was amazing. Brian was an extension of the coaches. I love him to death. And I have 2 Stanley Cup rings, even though, Mario's the guy that put us over the top. A lot of that's because of Brian. Telling you, Brian Trottier was an amazing leader. Amazing leader.
Much like Rex. All right, next question. Randy Workman, if you're the Flames, do you tank for Super Draft?
I don't. But Randy, what happens if you lose the lottery?
Yeah, Randy. And here's the other thing: they're in such a good place. They're starting to really feel some momentum there. I just keep riding where you're going. Just stay focused on what your plan is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, what do the teams look into when drafting a goalie in the draft?
Good question.
Clutch, I imagine.
You look at a lot of things: psychological profile, intensity, work habits, coachability, because a lot of them are so far removed from being ready to play in the league.
Right.
So coachability matters. There's a lot. A lot of it's about quickness too, and leg strength and ability to move laterally and read the play. But a lot of it's right here.
Yeah.
A lot of it's right there.
All right, next question. Ethan Russell, did you think Edmonton was trying to get too fancy with the breakouts in the beginning of the game rather than using the glass more? Do you think their dump-ins got better throughout the game?
Well, they don't use the glass because that's just not how they play.
Right.
And I think you're probably talking about one of the turnovers. I think Bouchard made it.
Yep.
You're going in the offensive zone. I get it. He's a kid. He's going to make that mistake. He wants to make a good play. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. But they don't do that. That's not how they play. You can't lose your identity as a player or as a team. So they'll figure it out. But look, they won the game.
I know.
They won the game.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski on Podkolzin has surprised me these playoffs. I knew he fell out of favor with the Canucks, but have you been impressed with his play so far?
I said it on CBS before the series started, the last series. I said he's probably going to be the most underrated guy for the Oilers that you won't hear anything about, but it'll affect the outcome of a game because he hits everything. He's fearless. He stands up for his teammates. He can handle minutes. If he doesn't get a lot of minutes, he can still go out and play because he doesn't get stiff on the bench. He's a good player. He's a very useful player.
Yeah, I didn't realize how physical he was, Pierre, until I started watching more in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, he's a physical guy.
Next question. Alex Ivanowski, what are the thoughts on Jussi Kiskinen signing with the Wings? He looked good at the World Juniors.
Yeah, that's great. I know what you mean, but we'll see. He's not playing in Detroit.
Yeah. All right, next question. Franco, are the Anaheim Ducks and Mitch Marner signing with the McTavish re-signing away from the playoffs? Is this a good fit in your eyes? I think they're going to be in on him. I do.
I do too.
A lot.
What happens if Toronto signs Mitch before, though?
I know.
So I don't want, but would he be a good fit there? The answer is, well, yeah. And plus, Joel knows how to handle players.
Yeah.
You know, if you're Pat Verbeek,
Mm-hmm.
you're just recruiting players and saying, well, I hired Joel Quenneville, and here's why. He had Jonathan Taves. He had Patrick Kane. You know, he had Duncan Keith. He had Brent Seabrook. He had Corey Crawford. And talk to all the role players who played over those years. Marion Hossa is another one who's a Hall of Famer. Talk to those players. I'll give you their numbers. And talk to Marion Hossa. I'll give you his number. And talk to the role players if you want to. And they'll tell you what Joel's all about. And so you got the most effective recruiting tool ever. You got a coach that is pretty highly respected. Very, very highly respected.
Yeah. And I think they know that we're at that next step now. We can make some big swings here. So, all right, next question. Ethan Russell, are you surprised that no college coaches were hired for NHL jobs?
Well, no, one of them turned a bunch of them down.
Yeah.
David Carl turned a bunch down. I also think if you look at the teams that hired coaches, and by the way, Mike Sullivan and Dave, they're BU guys. Joe Sacco, it's BU.
Exactly.
They're all college guys. Ryan Warsofsky's a college guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're college coaches getting jobs. But if you look at them, all those teams want to take the next step. And so I think they didn't want to take the chance on a college coach. I'm surprised. Like, I think Lane Lambert's a good coach, but I'm surprised in Seattle that he got the job there.
I thought maybe the Bruins would look the college route a little.
They may have.
Yeah, they may have.
Know it. They may have talked to Jay Pandolfo. They may have talked to Greg Carvel. They may have talked to Nate Lehman.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. They may have talked to Ben Barr.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know that, but I'm just going to tell you right now, like, David Carl turned down a whack of money.
Oh, gosh.
He turned down a Brinks truck in Chicago, and I think he had 2 or 3 other jobs too.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Franco, Jake Wallman seems like one of the more underrated deadline acquisitions of any team. Do you agree?
Yes, that's what you were talking about before.
Yep. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, do you think Taves is the first choice? Taves' first choice is Anaheim right now.
Could be, but I'm not prepared to say that because I think Toronto would be a really good place for Jonathan Taves. Jonathan's going back to win. You're not going back to, anything else. He's going back to win.
You think Detroit would ever take a stab at him, Pierre?
I hope so.
I don't know if he'd ever do it, though. Being a former Blackhawk, that would be not.
Look, they took Patrick Kane.
Yeah. King's there, so yeah.
Like,
what if that?
One other thing, just because I'd like to do this. You ever heard of Chris Chelios?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. All right. That's it for our questions.
Jimmy, don't be first. Be right.
You're right. I do think he'd be a good fit, though. That's kind of the type of presence they need.
You'd be a really good fit, Jimmy.
All right. Big thanks to Mark Recchi being our guest today.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Mark's is great. Thanks to Shane running the boards up in Montreal. Thank you to everyone for your questions there in the comment section. Everyone listening. We will be back tomorrow, but we are pre-recording tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning, so we won't have a live Q&A. So the next Q&A will be Monday, but we'll have plenty of hockey to talk about then. So join us tomorrow, though. We'll air at the regular time at 4 o'clock, but we will not be doing the Q&A live on that. Until then, He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.